If anthros became real, the furry fandom would almost immediately go into the streets and form SS squads. So now that I've got your attention, let's get a few definitions out of the way. For the sake of this video, anthros, short for anthropomorphic animals, are a fictional species similar to humans that walks on two legs and possesses human intelligence, but differ from humans in appearance, whether in body structure, possessing fur instead of skin, animal features such as claws or a tail, and so on. Furries, or the furry fandom, are a real-life subculture group of humans, usually men, who wear costumes dedicated to anthros, dedicate websites and draw countless pictures of them, set them as profile pictures and alternate personas, etc. I will also use the term in-group a lot when referring to them, by which I mean an elitist and exclusive group of like-minded individuals, in this case united in their appreciation for anthros, which they believe those not in the group must stay far away from. C.S. Lewis writes in his essays about friend groups or organizations that do not exist formally and never officially admit or expel anyone. They have unspoken rules, ways of speech, and hierarchies, and aside from a few who are obviously in or obviously out, it is not often easy to say who is and is not in. This description fits the furry fandom quite well. What I aim to prove in this video is that if anthros began to live alongside humans, the furry fandom would very soon emerge as the next clan. For this outcome, we will assume three things to be true. A. That humans were once the only sapient species alive. B. That some event caused anthros to appear. And C. That shortly after the event described in B, humans, with their new anthro friends, can live as well as or better than they could when they were the only sapient species. A sort of perfect human-anthro coexistence, as I like to say.
Now you might be thinking, well, wouldn't the furries actually rejoice? Each man in the furry fandom can finally get with a real-life vixen girl, so why wouldn't they be happy? To answer this question, there is surely no all-encompassing definition of the furry fandom. There is no orthodox dogmatic definition on what is and isn't furry. I believe a better way to describe the fandom is to examine the three types of people who would claim to be part of it.
Those who would proudly state that they are part of this informal organization can be sorted into three categories. There are those who are genuinely interested in anthros and popular media, whom I will call the infatuated. These are usually newbies who just entered the furry fandom and hardly last long. They think the furry fandom is all about anthros and nothing more, and will inevitably experience a shock when they discover the more unsavory elements. In a matter of months, many either convert into what I call the degenerates, or they see the large numbers of degenerates and kingpins within and either disassociate with anthro animals entirely, or, like me, accept that anthro animals are kind of cool, but also that the furry fandom is for numbskulls.
Let's go over the degenerates. These are the people who were once infatuated, but have moved down the pipeline from an innocent fascination with anthros into more unsavory passions, hence the name degenerates. Insert whatever you'd like into this blank, but one thing is certain. Anthros are no longer the object of their attention. Anthros are merely the means which leads them to some other obsession, all the while retaining anthros as the thing that gives them the egotism of an in-group. You can often find them at furry conventions and fur meets, having room pizza parties and leaving used diapers on cars. Or on Twitter, drawing and ordering the fruitiest commissions you can think of.
Of the third category, whom I will call the kingpins, it's debatable whether they are just a subset of the degenerates or something else entirely. Regardless, they are still a presence in the fandom and they must be mentioned. For the infatuated, anthros are the sole object of their intention. For the degenerates, it becomes less about the attraction to anthros and leads to the other passions. To the kingpins, anthros are neither an idol to be tended to nor a vehicle to other idols, but a force of control and a honeypot to draw in those who can be controlled, often given the slang term pop fur. These are the elites of the club that you ain't in and that you'd better not be trying to get in. These are the ones who orchestrate factions and behave as cult leaders to their loyal in-groups, leading their armies of infatuated and degenerates to betray poor random souls online, beat them while they're down, and in the worst cases, dox and threaten death. Although kingpins use anthros as a weapon or fence for their in-groups, Many kingpins display degenerate behavior, which is why it's debatable whether or not they are their own separate category.
The objectors I mentioned earlier mean well. They want to believe that the furry fandom is better than I believe it to be. To their credit, I will not doubt that many in the furry fandom would experience a short-term euphoric burst of joy. Many infatuated, degenerates, and even kingpins would likely go to a motel, ring up a vixen call girl, spend the night, and so on. However, they fail to examine the long-term consequences of humans and anthros cohabitating together.
Let us look to the present as a way to see the future. How does the furry fandom live right now? I do not believe anyone would object if I say that the furry fandom is very internally divided. I do not believe anyone would object if I say that the furry fandom is rife with factionalism thanks to the kingpins. It's not uncommon to see new drama videos appearing on YouTube every week, telling the story of an icon of the furry fandom and how their dark secrets have been exposed, or a disastrous event that happened at the most recent convention. Twitter occurrences where furries betray other furries and throw them under the bus are almost daily in frequency.
Now, these are different from normal people who find anthros attractive or appealing in some other way, but do not call themselves furry. Almost no one can deny that anthros have some appeal, a level of je ne sais quoi that you can't put your finger on. When anthros become real, first the normal people would act confused. Then they would no doubt encounter anthros as they go about their everyday life, and then they would love it. And this mention of the normal people is the most damning nail in the coffin for the furry fandom.
Not counting the infatuated who are too stupid to know any better, the furry fandom is an elitist in-group composed heavily of shells of men. They get joy out of going to their fur meets and furry conventions because they know it's a joy that the outsiders, the Gentiles, the normies will never understand. It's a sort of, I'm proud to be different, I'm proud that I'm not like you. To any in-group, nothing can be worse for them than losing what makes them special, what separates them from the outsiders. When the in-group sees the object of their in-group in the daily life of the normies, when they see anthros in every store they go to, when they see Chad, the human captain of the football team, dating the bunny girl captain of the cheerleaders, when they see their dad becoming buddy-buddy with the new priest of wolfish blood, they will realize they have lost what makes them an in-group, and will relent it to no end.
This means one thing to the infatuated and degenerates who are still bitter against mom and dad for having to wake up early for church on Sunday morning, but doubly so for the kingpins who are the builders of this empire. Simply imagine how a eugenicist would feel if he saw a couple, one high and one low, on the arbitrary scale they made up. This is exactly how it would feel to a kingpin who sees a romantic couple of a human and an anthro. If you can see an anthro at the auto shop or right next door, there's no need to go out of your way to see one at AnthroCon. To the kingpins who claim a monopoly on anthropomorphic animals, this means war.
Now, how would this transition from a mere discontent for their new brothers and sisters into violent action? It's quite simple, actually. With the power and influence they have, the kingpins can easily rile up their legions of foolish, infatuated, and devoted degenerates by the same means that inspired the Klan, the SS, the Bolsheviks, and even fringe extremist groups today such as Antifa. Many kingpins already use threats and violence against their disgraced victims, and it is barely even a step further that they should use violence against their new enemy. The empire builders of the fandom organize meetings and conventions similar to these extremist groups, and it would not be hard to convince their followers to perform acts of violence against the scapegoat they set up. Of course, we know that at the end of the day, the kingpins will lose, and anthros will be shown the love and dignity that we are to show to all our brothers and sisters in Christ. Thank you for watching.